What's up and welcome in. Bungie's making some huge changes in Season 21 with abilities and supers, but also exotic armor. And I'm making videos on Titan, Hunter, and Warlock builds for Season 21 that might be endgame viable or meta defining. One of the things that I think is going to come back in Season 21 is roaming supers in Grandmaster Nightfalls. Sounds crazy, but I think this is going to work. In Season 21, Destiny is increasing the viability of roaming supers in high difficulty PVE content. Let's look at that. All supers increased PVE damage resistance by about 20%. 20% safer in your super. And then for Hunter, Golden Gun, both Marksman and Deadshot increase PVE damage by 20%. That's very interesting because Golden Gun already does a ton of damage. So I might be also making a build about that. Also, Spectral Blades might be meta. I'll probably be making an Omnioculus Hunter build with Spectral Blades in mind. But what we're looking at today is the Arc Staff increased PVE damage by 20%. This already does a lot of damage, but it hasn't done enough damage to really make it worth using in PVE. Gathering Storm has just been better, but since that's not getting a 20% buff and this is, I think this will be viable. And so I'm leaning into that and utilizing the exotic Raiden Flux. This is actually one of my first exotic armor pieces that I used heavily in year 1 of Destiny 2. Synapse Junctions. Quick successive attacks with Arc Staff increase its damage, output, and duration. So what's great about this is that you do not need kills to get the buffs. It's just successive hits. So each hit you do on a target gets successively stronger and also lets you do more damage by keeping your super duration longer. I think there's something really cool about this armor piece potentially coming back into the meta in Season 21, Season of the Deep, because this exotic piece was first rewarded to you by doing a campaign mission on Titan, and I believe we are going back to Titan on Season of the Deep, so it just makes sense and feels good to be using this exotic piece on Titan. And by Titan, I mean the moon, not the class. So this Arc Strider build is really not like a typical Arc Strider build. It's going to be pretty different looking than the standard Assassin's Cowl build that just runs around meleeing, dodging. While I like that playstyle and I like how those pair together, this is not that. So this is pretty different than that, and just want to give you fair warning that this is not your normal Arc Strider. So all this with Raiden Flux, now doing 20% more damage and giving you 20% more resistance. Have to use Arc Staff, of course. Form a staff of pure arc energy and acrobatically take out your foes. You can also deflect incoming projectiles. That also uses a lot of super energy. So for this with Raiden Flux, I typically like to just go in swinging, get as many attacks on a big boss as I can, and it's a lot with Raiden Flux. Honestly, it feels like a really long time. This super cooldown is pretty long compared to Gathering Storm or really most other supers. There's a lot of 6 or 7 minute supers. This one is 9:16. Pretty long, but it's worth it for the amount of time you get to spend in your Arc Staff. For dodge abilities, Marksman Dodge to reload your weapons, Triple Jump for all things PvE. This is where it changes from your typical Arc Strider build, using Disorienting Blow to blind them and amplify yourself. Really, it's for the easy amplification. And then Flashbang Grenades to blind targets and stun unstoppable champions. And then Tempest Strike for the aspects. While sliding, activate your charged melee ability to unleash a devastating uppercut attack that travels along the ground in front of you, damaging and jolting targets it hits. This is to make things jolted. And really, I'm using this because when paired with Flow State, defeating a jolted target makes you amplified. So it's more amplification. Really want to stay amplified at all times with this build. To move faster, to have more dodges, which will give you more ability energy and get your super back faster. Also, Flow State, when you're amplified, your dodge recharges more quickly. You are more resilient while dodging, and your reload speed is greatly increased. That reload speed you can really feel. So I know a lot of builds use Lethal Current after dodging your next melee attack, has increased lunge range, jolts the target, and creates a damaging aftershock. Damaging any jolted target with melee also blinds them. While this is good when paired with Combination Blow and that going back and forth with Gambler's Dodge, I like that setup too. That's an option. This is kind of me showing you there's other ways to play this. And this does work. It jolts everything. You get amplified all the time, blinding everything. I really like the other way of playing it with Combination Blow and Lethal Current and Gambler's Dodge when I'm using Assassin's Cowl. That feels really good in in-game content. But when I'm using this Raiden Flux, I just like to build it different. So then for the fragments, if you don't have 100 resilience, you can run Spark of Resistance. This gives you plus 40 resilience. If you're already at 100, it's not worth running Spark of Resistance. But if you're not, you can run that. My first fragment is Spark of Shock. Your arc grenades jolt targets. This is nice because it makes your flashbang blind targets, but also jolt them. And when you defeat jolted targets, you get amplified. So that all plays together, just more jolting, more blinding, more amplified. Spark of Haste. You have greatly increased resilience, recovery, and mobility while sprinting. This one gives you plus 30 resilience, plus 30 recovery, and plus 30 mobility while sprinting. It goes away very fast after you stop sprinting. You can even just run into a wall and it'll get your recovery up plus 30, which would give me right now 100 recovery. The resilience is lost on me with this Spark of Haste because I already have 100 resilience and you can't get over 100, but the recovery and the mobility is very useful. It allows me to build into other stats, which is why I only have 50 mobility and 70 recovery, because when I'm sprinting, it goes up. And then Spark of Amplitude, rapidly defeat targets while you are amplified, creates orbs of power. The idea is to always be amplified or be as amplified as much as you possibly can. So then each kill gives you orbs of power. And then Spark of Feedback, taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage. I don't really use too many melees. It does give you plus 10 resilience, and this was one of the only ways with my stats to get to 100 resilience because I don't have perfect armor for this build yet. But there are a bunch of really great fragments, and I'll probably be switching this one in or out depending on the season and the seasonal mods. I might find something that works a little better, but we'll see when we get to the season. And then for my armor, I kind of went over it a little bit, but I have 100 resilience, 70 recovery, as much discipline and intellect as I can to get my grenade back faster and to get my super back faster, especially when running Raiden Flux. And then at least 50-ish mobility. This can be a little bit lower on arc because being amplified gives you 40 mobility, and then having the haste, Spark of Haste while running, you get 30 mobility. So either you're going to be at 80 while sprinting, or you're going to be at 90 while amplified. If you're sprinting and amplified, then you have 100. And then for the mods, I typically always use heavy ammo finder, but for this build specifically, building around the arc staff super, I think dynamo is a little bit more important. This reduces your super cooldown when using your class ability near targets, and then also playing into that ashes to assets, gain bonus super energy on grenade kills, so trying to get that super back as fast as possible. And then harmonic siphon, arc siphon. And for the gloves, bolstering detonation grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade. The more dodges you can do, the more you reload your weapon, the more super ability you get back. So just having that class ability is really important. Also getting your class ability back with melees. And then font of focus, giving you plus 30 to discipline. So really our stats look kind of low with this build because I spread them out a lot, but they're actually all really high. So when I have an armor charge, I'm at 90 discipline. When I'm sprinting, I'm at 80 mobility, or when I'm amplified, I'm at 90. When I have both of those, I'm at 100. When I'm sprinting, I have 100 recovery. And then the intellect is at 70, but I have dynamo and ashes to assets to make that better. So the stats look a little wonky with this build, but really they're very high and it feels really good. Then for the chest piece, I have on arc resistance, solar resistance, void resistance. For in-game content, resistances are really important. That's just leaning into that. Then for my legs, recuperation to get health back on orb pickup, arc weapon surge to get plus 10% damage to my arc weapons. Then harmonic scavenger, arc weapons get bonus reserves when picking up ammo used by that weapon. Kind of using this because I didn't have room for heavy ammo finder, so when I do find heavy ammo, it makes a bigger impact. And also I didn't have enough space for another arc weapon surge. Otherwise I probably would do 2 arc weapon surges and not use harmonic scavenger. And then for the cloak, I got Reaper to give an orb after on your next kill after using your class ability, and time dilation to increase that length of armor charge, increase how long I have font of focus, how long I have a 10% arc damage boost. And then a lot of the weapons are going to depend on the artifact, and we have no idea what that's going to look like for next season. So it really depends on which weapons are going to be overcharged, and if there's going to be something similar to volatile flow for arc weapons, it might change everything, or stasis weapons or something like that. I don't know, but building generally around this whole playstyle, using stuff with volt shot or like Trinity Ghoul that has lightning rod, which chain lightning stuff, or Risk Runner, even if there's an SMG overcharge, things that can do a lot of jolting and do a lot of damage to a lot of adds with your primary ammo or even special ammo. That's really great. Then I have a Riptide with Chill Clip, which takes care of Overload champions and Unstoppable champions. So I don't know what the barrier breaking weapons are going to be next season, but you might want to build around having a barrier breaking weapon for GMs. And then this season, Terminus Horizon is always overcharged with Origin Hones with text balance stock, but I don't know if it's going to be next season, but there's some great arc weapons in heavy slots. The best rocket launcher in the game, Hothead, or Anarchy. Grenade launchers got buffed with Lightfall. This is great now, and it's arc damage. Thunderlord is great now. Wendigo does a ton of damage with explosive light autoloading. So there's a ton of arc weapon options. Arc weapons are probably my favorite in the game. I use a lot of Mask of Bacchus on my Stasis Hunter and use arc weapons for that. I feel like it's going to be pretty natural to slide into using Arc Hunter with arc weapons. But again, we're going to have to see what that artifact is like. There you have it, my Arc Strider Raiden Flux build for Season 21, Season of the Deep, Destiny 2. Really stoked for this to come back into play and roaming supers to be viable again. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop in and watch. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you want to see more Destiny 2 tips and tricks and guides and builds specifically catered to hard in-game content like Grandmaster Nightfalls or Master Raids, things like that. That's what I love to do in Destiny, and I just want to see more people get involved in the in-game community and get those Grandmaster clears. See you next time. Peace.